Let's see. I'll hit one more time for her to join because I see, is she here, Shirley, yet or no? No.
I don't see her now.
Do you see me calling her?
No, I think it only comes up on your
There
side.
I am. Oh, there I am. Okay, it's calling her. So we'll see what happens. No, it just went off. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on her end. Okay, so good morning, everyone. I hope we had a lovely weekend. Thank you for allowing us to have our meeting today on Tuesday. Yesterday was just a lovely day. I had a great day of rest and relaxation. So I hope everyone had the same. So I want to begin the meeting by just going over our agenda really quickly, and then I'm going to put up the minutes. So Louis, if you could just pop them up again. Thank you. That's the minutes. Okay. So today, yep. So today we're going to be talking about revisiting our DLT goals, to show a little of the professional learning that's aligned to our goals and action plans that we began this month with all of our schools, which includes culturally responsive and sustaining education. And Dr. D'Antona is just going to present one of the activities that our teachers and administrators engaged in a training with Dr. Maria Akinle. And then I want to have a conversation about SLT training. And Gus, I know that you'll join in, even though I didn't speak to you in advance, you always come from a wealth of knowledge. I want to talk about, do we just want to have all of our SLTs do what's being offered by FACE and Central, or do we want to do our own training? So we'll just address that later. And then Gus is doing a presentation on the DCIP and the DCEP, and all of those things that are confusing and boring that he breaks down and makes them meaningful to us. So thank you, Gus, for always doing that. And that is why, Louis, if you could put in the chat the sign-in sheet, because this is one of those meetings that we do have to show that everyone was represented, and we did have consultation. So please make sure that everyone signs into the meeting that you were present today. Okay, let's wait in the lobby. We're waiting in the lobby. Oh, Shirley, here we go. I let her in. Let's make sure she gets in. Hi, Shirley. Good morning. Okay.
Good morning. You can hear me?
Yes. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. And then we will do our high school superintendent's report and any new business that's out there. So if Louis, you can put up the minutes to the meeting, and I do apologize. The minutes were not up over the weekend, but they are on our DLT website right now for you to have access to and to read. But Louis is going to put them up on the screen, and if we could read through them, but you're going too fast, Luke. Can you go a little slower? Okay. If we could read through them, and if somebody can make a motion to approve.
Yeah, you should.
You're requested to control my screen.
Ah.
Deny. Do you want to share or no?
Yeah, you just, yeah. No, you just click the arrow on the upper right-hand corner.
Yeah, you could take over if you want. This all seems so long ago.
You can go a little faster, Lewis. See, when I tell him to go slow, he's like not alive.
This is very dense,
It is.
important, words. And like we said earlier, this is all available on the website now as well.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve minutes?
Motion to approve.
A second?
Francis seconds.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We have concession.
Thank you. Okay, so
Sorry. Negate that, Sonia.
okay. Let me share my screen. Hold on. You guys see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So this presentation is very similar to the presentation that I went over at our CEC meeting last Wednesday. There's just some additional information that we've presented around our DCEP goals and how we have begun aligning the work of the district in support of schools to our DCEP goals. So any questions throughout the presentation, just feel free to ask. So what you're seeing in these 4 boxes, and as you know, these are the pillars of culturally responsive and sustaining education, and something that we've been talking about as a district for many years around high expectations and rigorous instruction and what that looks like for teachers and what that should look like across all of our classrooms. Our welcoming and affirming school environment and our work that we've been engaging in with social emotional learning, our homecoming activities that we went through this week, and this past month with our students returning to school, and Actually, one of the things that we talked about is a lot of our principals and teachers and staff members loved homecoming so much that it is something that they are going to continue to do every year. They loved seeing students' faces as they were coming back to school in this, really warm, welcoming, and secure environment for them, especially some students who haven't been back to school in 18 months. So that is something that they are going to keep, to spend the first week or two of just getting to know students well, the 2 weeks of love, making sure that students are prepared both emotionally and academically to start the school year. Inclusive curricula and assessments, we spent some time talking about our screeners, which our students are now in the process of taking. We have Acadience and iReady for ELA in K-8, and then we have iReady for math. So our schools are underway in assessing those students, and then they're going to use those assessments in order to make appropriate modifications to curricula and to start our MTSS programs across all of our schools. And then ongoing targeted professional communities that we have already started. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today and show you where we are. And that is really all aligned to what we have designed and developed as a district, really recognizing all of our talents, our roots as schools, as communities, as individual families and students, and how the objective in District 25 is that we all grow together within these 4 pillars. We have begun the work with our schools around what it means to empower learners, to give students voice. What does it look like to embrace differences? And Dr. D'Antona is going to show you one of the activities that one of our trainers did for our teachers and administrators this week, and how we will continue to provide equitable access and opportunities for all across our schools. Okay. As we have showed you over the past 2 meetings, these are our DCEP goals. And one of the things that I think is really important to highlight, and you'll see these across the goals, is that we have taken the city's mandate of instructional leadership teams and incorporated the instructional leadership and equity teams, where we really want our schools to start looking at our historical opportunity gaps and which subgroups fall into these historical opportunity gaps, where year over year certain groups of students are not making growth, and we are supporting schools in addressing the organizational and pedagogical conditions that have led to these. In the past, our teachers, and we saw our schools and our teachers have spent a lot of time looking at data and translating that into direct services to students, but really not looking at what are some of the things that our schools are doing in terms of organizing these supports, and what are some of the things that our teachers may be missing that we can support them to strengthen their pedagogy to support students that historically have not been successful. So for our ELA goal, we're looking at the implementation of equity visits, and we will go over this during this presentation, as well as ensuring that all of our schools are creating MTS plans and implementing MTSS plans that target key literacy skills within the priority learning standards that our students are weak in. Our overall objective is to see our opportunity gaps for our student subgroups, particularly our Black and Hispanic population, shrink. So the same is in terms of math goals, looking at equity visits and creating MTSS plans that focus on certain math tasks and problem solving skills that are directly related to the standards, and once again with a focus on our Black and Hispanic populations. In terms of supporting our leaders, our leadership goal is engaging in professional learning for our school leaders and staff to know students well, so that they are organizing MTSS through cycles of support. We want to make sure that that is something that is happening, and that our principals understand what can and should look like. with a focus on students with disabilities as well as our Hispanic learners. Our parent engagement goal is twofold. As Dr. D'Antona has spoken about over the past 2 years, our District 25 really needs to do work with supporting our schools and the schools in turn supporting students and families around chronic absenteeism. So that is part one of our goals. And the second is around continuing to work with our goals to engage in parent chats and getting feedback from parents, specifically around areas that, um, you know, that are layered into the school's needs and the school goals. So I gave an example of when I was at a PPO last year, I observed a parent chat where the principal had aligned the team of parents that I was meeting with directly to one of her targeted subgroups, which was special education. So the parent chat was guided by the principal around how well or if the school was not doing the things that they said in their goals and action plans, aligned to support students with special needs. And we got a lot of information from that. So we're going to continue to do that. And then finally, we are working as a district, except for one school, because they are rolling out a brand new curriculum. But all of our schools are going to participate in Civics for All. And that will include an area focusing on both SEL and CRSE. And the curriculum includes, and the program includes training for teachers and a teacher team, as well as implementation at the school level where all students will design and implement social action projects. So we're really excited about that work. Okay, any questions? All right, so engaging professional learning to support our equity visits. So during our monthly principles and AP sessions, we're going to focus on the use of strategic data systems and the understanding of the screeners that are being administered now to support the implementation of these visits. So an equity visit is a school or district leadership team identifies a problem of practice defined by inequities in student access to instructional opportunities and academic outcomes based on race, class, gender, disability, language, or other characteristics. Now, we have been engaging in inquiry teams for a very long time. And from 2016 to 2018, Dr. D'Antona and I did a tremendous amount of work with our leaders and our schools in ensuring that our schools had a clear understanding of how to plan for and implement inquiry. The difference is in our assessment of schools, what we are finding is that schools are not targeting and focusing on historically underperforming students. So when we're speaking in these ideas of equity visits this year, it is really focusing on students that have historically underperformed across the years in terms of our subgroups. So as we've been speaking as a DLT, it is our Black, our Hispanic, our special education students. Here is the structure of an equity visit. It talks about identifying an equity focus. What are some of the things that a school thinks that they need to see? Looking at data, designing an equity focused problem of practice, collecting and analyzing data through an equity lens, and then they start the process of going into classrooms and looking at classrooms in a different way, right? So we're still building the instructional core and we're still expecting rigor, but it really is what is the relationship between the teacher, the student, and content through an equity lens. So when we're going in classrooms, we're going in with this key understanding of who are these historically underperforming students, and the observation and discussion is around that relationship. So it's not just the student, it's the relationship between the student and teacher and the student and content. So we are just at the beginning stages of this work. At the end of this month, Dr. D'Antona and I will be collecting the equity focus that all of our equity teams have designed and created, and additionally, the equity focused problem of practice. Okay. This is a sample organizer that we are going to ask equity teams to look at when they go into classrooms. So it is teams have to include their equity focus, their problem of practice. They have to assess which grade subject that they're observing. And then the look fors, you'll have different members looking at different things. So there'll be somebody there really focused on the things that the teacher is doing regarding the focus on our underperforming students. And then what are the response from the students? And is the content or task really addressing what it needs to. And then we included having a guidance counselor there for an SEL lens as well. Dr. Danton, you want to add anything to that? Did I forget anything?
Nope, got it all.
Okay. And then just really go over aha moments that they've all observed together. What remains unclear? Are they on the right path to getting the information that they need in order to determine next steps to say, through our inquiry, this is what we feel the school needs. And then the school will meet with us and the borough to get the supports that they need for teachers and students. Any questions about that? Okay. So we wanted to just talk a little bit about professional learning that has started already. So on Friday, we had our 3Ls training with Marianne Cucciara with the focus on vocabulary, as we had discussed in June, as a result of, and then again in August, as a result of both our end of year screeners, end of year assessments last year, as well as state exams. We knew that vocabulary is an area of focus for many students across our schools. So our first training was in Marianne Cucciara, where she's focused on vocabulary development and wordplay. So we were really excited about that training. We have also had 2 trainings so far from Dr. Maria Akinle on becoming a culturally responsive educator. So this is a step-by-step process of what culturally responsive teaching means and to be a culturally responsive educator and person. So we're really excited about this work. We have all of our schools participating in level 1 if they did not last year, and our schools that participated last year are starting with level 2 with her. So we're really excited. And then we're continuing our training with Apple. Actually, today is one of the trainings. This training supports teachers, coaches, and principals to redesign student learning tasks, which increase student authenticity and the effectiveness of technology. So this is part of our work around what it means to empower students and empower learners. And so we're really excited about that. Okay, so for just a few minutes, I actually want Dr. D'Antona to walk you through one of the activities that Dr. Akinle did with our leaders and teachers just around what it means to think about students through a culturally responsive lens. Okay. So, do you want me to start here, Doctor?
Yeah, you can, if you can unshare, and then I'll just show them the template first for where this came from.
Okie doke.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Hope you guys are all doing well. So, one of the training pieces, and this came from our level 2 cohort that we're working with, and they're really starting to dig into, gathering information on our kids to really support the development of lessons and units. And what Dr. Kinyele shared with them during this last session was an I am poem. And within this I am poem, the goal of it, from my perspective, is a couple of layers to it. One, obviously we want to get to know our students better, so it becomes a really cool data gathering tool for a teacher to learn a little bit more about their students, but also for a teacher then the question becomes, now that I know this information, what do I do with that information next? So as an example, there are multiple different types of IM poems that are out there. You can look at them online, and you'll be able to find different variations of it. But this is the example that Dr. Kinyele shared with us during our training. And it's I am blank, a leader, teacher from blank. I am, and then it says add two special characteristics about yourself in here. I am from, and then a specific ordinary item from your family of origin. And just to give you a little bit of context, there's a variety of other examples that are in here. This is the one that Maria shared with us from herself. I am Maria, a leader of Aguirre Learning Consultants. I am playful and intellectual. I am from jollof rice, made from spicy tomato sauce and onions. I am from black people, from playing double dutch in the streets to singing We Gonna Make It by Jadakiss, which makes me joyful about my upbringing and roots. I'm not going to read through the rest of this, but I want to give you a little bit of context as to what then winds up happening with this. So the goal from that is then to bring it into the idea of how do I use some of this information as a teacher to support curriculum. So as Dr. Akinyele was modeling for us, she gave some examples, curriculum topics to use as a hook for students in our classrooms. So if we know children in our classroom, double Dutch is a component that is important for them to have shared, then how do we bring in to the context where inside of our units? And it's not that it's going to happen within every single lesson or every single unit, but that we're conscious of it inside of our planning, that where we can bring in components that really do connect to our students, that are part of who they have described in terms of who they are, where do we bring those things into the context of their learning so that we are really becoming connected to their culture, and how it's embedded inside of our planning. So as an example that she did provide, whoops, wrong one, sorry. As an example that she did provide was from a student. I am Edwin, a student from IS 364. I'm funny and kind. I am from Mangu, made from plantains and garlic. I am mixed from Keloke, what's up, and Three Kings Day, which makes me feel connected and cool. I am from Rodriguez and Martinez. I am from Merengue and Bachata. I am love playing basketball and Fortnite, baseball and Fortnite. I am from late Poppy Jose and TT Rose. Rose. I am from a mixture of black and white in my family. Though I consider myself mixed, I am funny and kind. I'm the only child of Vladimir and Rosa. I am from being told a falta de pan, casabe. I might have completely butchered that. I'm sorry. If there's no bread, cassava. That still helps me to be thankful. I am from Catholics. I am from privilege of having a big family and having lots of food. I am a student who wants to keep getting good grades. I am a student growing into being better about my homework. I am Edwin, funny and kind. Now, what she then brought us through was an example. Now, this is Maria's example. What she had asked the group to do was to then start thinking about how would we begin organizing and planning for Edwin when we are organizing our lessons in units, and our teachers organize their document accordingly. And even things as small as how can I play a little bit of merengue in the background when there are opportunities just to engage Edwin and maybe perhaps some of his other peers, but to bring into the fold things that we know about our learners to make them feel more connected to their classroom experience. So this was just a small example that we are learning right now with Dr. Akinyele to support our instructional and unit planning as we're going through the year. Really excited about the direction that we're going with this work.
Yep. Thank you, Dr. D'Antona.
Sure.
All right. You unshare?
I can.
Thank you. And so I can share. Okay. All righty. So, another thing that Dr. Akinle did with our teachers and administrators through this work, which she spoke about the concept of blindness. So when people say things like, I see everyone the same, but she wanted to point out, but I just told you that I am proud of being Hispanic, right? Or, everyone, at work is the same, but I just told you that I identify as a mom, right? So it's really about recognizing students and each other, and just about how we can grow and learn and use that to make our classroom experiences more warm and welcoming, and what it means to include things about your students in curriculum. So one of the things that she also showed our teachers is how she created a math problem from Double Dutch. And so these are all things within teacher planning around getting as much information about your students and knowing them well as people, around really seeing them, and then incorporating the importance of the curriculum and the standards and the skills, and how you plan for that to make your learning time with students more meaningful to them, to allow them to see themselves within the curriculum. So that's really the objective of this learning, and people are really enjoying it as well. So it's good to see the transformation, and it is really some very, very impressive professional learning, and it's having an impact on teachers. Moving on, we are continuing our partnership with Bank Street College, where we are building early childhood content knowledge for our early childhood teachers. Remember, that's one of the things that we saw a need to happen when we were analyzing and studying through an equity lens at the district level. We saw that many of our students in kindergarten, in terms of mathematics, were on the same level of performance, but by third grade we had these huge achievement gaps. And one of the studies that we did, we saw that it was the need for our teachers to have more early childhood math content knowledge, what that looks like, and how they can develop and design tasks and curriculum using that knowledge, inclusive of math talks and tasks that really do bridge the scaffolding and learning of the standards from K to 2. So we're continuing that work, and I think most of our schools are participating in that. Correct, Dr. D'Antona? Yep. So we're really excited to continue to build that. And then finally, our supportive environment goal does include Dr. Akignelli's work, but as well as our Civics for All initiative. So it really is focused on providing our schools with models for civic education that are relevant to students' lived experiences, strengthening student voice, enabling students to practice and participating in taking informed action themselves, and empowering students to become active and responsible community members. So I just want to give you an example of something that I observed, which I thought was great. Is everybody seeing Marcia in the lobby, or is it just me? Okay, I'm going to let her in. Okay.
I'm seeing it too. Well, the people are asking
Okay,
to join.
I got it. Let's make sure she's in. She got in. Hi, Marcia. Welcome.
Hi. Oh my goodness. Good morning. This is crazy. Oh, hi everybody. I'm sorry.
No
I'm on like
worries.
3 different stuff here just to still fight to get in to see your faces.
Well, we're glad you're here, and I'm going to do
Okay.
introductions once I'm finished with this presentation, but I'm glad to see
That's
you,
okay.
Marcia. It's been a long time.
Thank you. You're
Welcome back. Welcome
All
back.
right. You're welcome.
Okay, so and then the next, in terms of our parent engagement goals, we are continuing to train our monthly parent coordinators in supporting and developing parent chats. They have really done a fabulous job in this work. So we're excited to continue to support them. We're doing our monthly meetings on social emotional learning with both our guidance counselors and our principals and assistant principals. Dr. D'Antona is still working with the district guidance counselor advisory team. So we're continuing to build our practices in that. And then we are working through our quarterly case team meeting check-ins, which includes attendance, SEL, and CRSE. So Dr. D'Antona and I are visiting schools and meeting with these teams when we go to our PPOs, but Louis Latito from my office is also doing check-ins with case teams to make sure that they are implementing their systems, particularly in the area of chronic absenteeism. So thank you, Louis, for doing that as well. Okay. MTSS, I know that we've talked about this in the past, but I think it's really important. MTSS, RTI, all of these things, we have systems in place, and we've had systems in place, but what we are asking our principals to do a little bit more strategically is to really look at how MTSS is organized and how our teachers are trained to deliver the interventions that they're giving. We must also remember that MTSS is not just about academics. It does include social emotional needs. They are asked um, to organize students in tiers, which is who may just need to be looked at in the classroom and get a little extra support in the classroom. That's your tier 1. Targeted tier 2 is when kids may come out for a cycle of intervention services. And then tier 3 is your real intensive students that we are looking at really closely for different types of referrals. So I think it's important because MTSS is an expectation that comes from Central and from the district when we're having our one-on-one meetings with our principals around the goals and objectives for this year. We are really honing in on MTSS to make sure that they do understand that they have to have clear system and structures that they can communicate to us, both myself and Dr. D'Antona, that the teachers understand what their role is for MTSS. Like, for example, I can't go into any school and a teacher asks me what MTSS is. I say that means I'll lose my mind, right? So MTSS has to really be part of the foundations of expectations for principals, and principals need to create these clear structures so that teachers understand what systems are delivered. They've unpacked data to see who needs what, how these systems are in place, what interventions are delivered, and how we're keeping track of them. So that is up and running. This is the Castle framework, and this is what I had presented at the DLT, the Castle framework of social emotional learning. These are the 5 pillars that Dr. D'Antona was talking about at the CEC meeting, but also that we talk about often around self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. And then our Civics for All program, which is what we're working through. And here's how SEL and Civics for All are combined and how they relate to each other. I wanted to spend some time really talking about living our mission and vision this year. And one of the things that I did with Dr. D'Antona and I wanted to share with the DLT is just our pathway towards equity, diversity, and access, to go over this with all of you so you understand how Dr. D'Antona and I continue to live the expectations through the work that we've done around equity and diversity and access across the district. So if you go back to our meetings in 2016 and 17, we originally started with an ENL, our English language learners, and special education teachers and teams around data that we found, which were disproportionate referral rates between our Hispanic and multilingual learners. And one of the things that we did training on our teachers that we saw that they need is sometimes they were missing the difference between a learning disability and language acquisition. So we really, especially in the Spanish language, so we really worked with those teams to ensure that they had that clear understanding and assessments. And then when the SIT teams were actually sitting down with each other to see if a child needed to be referred to special education, if that child was also a multilingual learner, one of the requirements that we had was that an ENL teacher was sitting on the team to really unpacking some of the work that the student was submitting to make sure that the issues that they were seeing were not just language acquisition. So that was where we had first started with our equity work. And then in 2017 and 18, we began to do disproportionality training for building leaders, guidance counselors, and our instructional leadership team to not just address the disproportionality that we were seeing in our special education referral rates for our Hispanic students, but also disproportionality in suspensions. We spent some times with our principals looking at ORS events and really saying, like, can you look to see how this was reported, and let's talk about some of the actions, not just of the student, but of the teacher, and how it led to this suspension. And then how can we support these schools that did have these disproportionate suspension rates for their Black and Hispanic students around SEL training. And that's why we're really excited, especially in our middle schools, to continue to build on this work through Civics for All. Once again, disproportional referral rates, and then we explored expanding opportunity and access for all students in our schools, especially, starting in our middle schools, to have access to regions. And what we promoted in our middle schools is when students have access to regions and are able to excel in regions in 8th grade, it opens up opportunities for them in high school to be able to take more accelerated classes to prepare them for college. And then in 2018 through 2020, all of our teachers and administrators, guidance counselors, parent coordinators, building leaders were trained in implicit bias. And then in 2019 and 20, the district equity team and incubator schools worked with Dr. Fergus to explore his text, Solving Disproportionality and Achieving Equity Using Data to Change Hearts and Minds. And then 2019 through present, all of our schools are participating in CRSE with Dr. Maria Keenley. And this professional learning experience for teachers and administrators really talks about becoming culturally responsive educators. It's not just about students, but it's about teachers understanding what it means to be a culturally responsive educator. And we think that's really important. School teams are working together to reflect on their racial and cultural identities to affirm and sustain student identities in their classrooms. And then we have teams engaging in equity audits and looking at strengths and areas of growth in their pursuits of racial and cultural equity, but within their schools, within their curriculum, and within their classrooms. So we're really excited to continue this work. And then in 2020, 2021, our district and equity teams engaged with the Office of Equity and Access to revisit our district schools' mission and vision using an equity lens, which we presented, and we redesigned statements. The redesigned statements were presented to communities, including our DLT, CEC, and school SLTs and communities. And then for this year, as we had already spoken about, we will engage in school-based training in equity visits. So our ILET teams are unpacking data using the book Equity Visits, a new approach to supporting equity-focused school and district leadership. For anyone on the DLT that is interested in a copy of this book, we have them for you. So if you want to just email me. But unfortunately, I don't have mailing yet in my office. So if you are here, I can give you a copy. But if not, and you'd like to pick it up, I can run a copy out to you. So just in case anybody wants a copy of those. Okay. Any questions?
I'm going to come down and get one.
Sure. Perfect. Okay. Any questions about anything I just presented? I know it was a lot, but I'm trying to get through it within the hour. Okay. The last thing that I wanted to talk to the DLT about is.
I'm sorry. I raised my hand, but I don't know if anybody saw my hand. This is Francis.
Hi, Francis. How are you?
I have just a recommendation because it seems there's a lot of emphasis on the Black and Hispanic community not doing well in schools, and I saw the document that Michael Deltona put, and it's a good way to kind of know and people's culture. But I'm going to go a little deeper in the curriculum of what's being taught. And when we talk about Black people, the first thing that we are learned in schools is that they were slaves, and they were inventors, they were doctors, they were the first to do certain things, and we're not learning that. Same thing with me. I'm Puerto Rican American, and where were the Puerto Ricans in any of this history? I only learned of Tito Puente and Celia Cruz, but that's just part of culture. But we're more than just music. We're more than that. There are Puerto Rican scientists we don't learn about. There's Puerto Rican judges. Where is that in our curriculum? In the movie Hidden Figures, they talked about these African American women that were scientists for NASA. Why isn't that part of our curriculum? And that is something that if these kids see this, might be interested to know that there's hope for them, and to know that they are positions other than slavery, other than, when I go to Puerto Rico and go to a cemetery, I see all those veterans flags there. Where are they in our history? It's not even known that they fought a war. So I think we need to get deeper in who's making this curriculum. I think people need to be at the table from all different cultures, Asian, um, African American, Hispanic, and Hispanic has 22 different Spanish colonies. So there's so many different diversity in within just the Hispanic culture. So I think those people need to be at the table to create a curriculum that we get to highlight things in everyone's culture to really understand the differences and and learn a better history. That's
Yep.
my recommendation.
Yep. And I 100% agree. And I think we are right at the beginning of engaging in exactly what you just mentioned. I also know that the city is doing very similar work. I think this is something that is going to take some time because, as you just mentioned, all of those things, there are decisions that need to be made in terms of what lives in a curriculum and how that work is aligned to the standards. Um, I think that it also is a community conversation, Francis, because you're mentioning things and giving information to our teachers, right? So even in, let's just say, a teacher, first of a common branch or early childhood teacher does not have that wide range of experience and knowledge without receiving those supports. And the same thing for a content area teacher, such as myself. um, a lot of times as an educator, one of the things that I say is I never realized how much I didn't know. I always thought I was a know-it-all, and now you get into this world of just different layers of what your content incorporates, and how do we provide those experiences for our teachers to engage in the selection of the topics that you're talking about. So I absolutely believe that communities need to have a seat at the table so they can educate us around some of the things that they would want to see in terms of reading and exposure to different types of people from across a variety of cultures. So I also know that many of our schools have received deliveries of culturally responsive books that are inclusive of what exactly that you're talking about. So I think we're in some very exciting times that we're going to begin to explore that. And I know that the Chancellor and Central are providing us with access to a lot of those opportunities. So it is going to take a lot of time because we're merging a lot of information into curricula units of study. But I'm really looking forward to it. And that's what really Dr. Akinle is talking about with our teachers, where she's saying, what does that mean to recognize exactly what you're saying, to be inclusive of the cultures in your community, but also other cultures outside of our community. I know it's made me a more well-rounded person to grow up within my own culture and community, but to learn of others has just made me the person that I am today. So I think we are on the same page as to what our plans and goals are for this work, but it is going to take some time and collaboration amongst all of us. Okay, any other questions? Okay. Last, I want to talk about something that I'm really excited about that's going to start taking place in January. We are training our parent coordinators to support our schools in the Save for College program, which is being supported by New York City Kids Rise. So as part of his Juneteenth economic justice plan, Mayor de Blasio announced the citywide expansion of Save for College program, which was implemented in just a few districts over the past few years. It includes all kindergarten students starting September 2021. So it is going to start in District 25 in January of 2022, but in partnership with our non-for-profit partner, New York City Kids Rise, all of our kindergartens will be provided with New York City scholarship accounts, which are very similar to 529. And New York City Kids Rise will include the first $100 deposit into each account for students. as well as opportunities for them to earn additional rewards and have access to community scholarships while they're in school, as well as supporting financial education and college career readiness activities for students and families. So we're really excited to start this program. Parents do have the option to opt out of it, and that will be communicated across all of our schools once we get more detail and training for our parent coordinators. But we're really excited to start these Safe for College programs for all of our kindergartners this year. And then it continues every year for kindergartners. Okay. Any questions about Safe for College?
I do have a question, but not about the Safe for College. I want to go
Okay.
back to the other topic, if that's all right.
Yep.
Any idea of when, time frame wise, you think we would be able to start getting teachers on board with PDs related to, I guess, the culturally responsive education and such? Any time of like when the PDs would start, who would be running them and facilitating them? Is that an idea that's tangible yet, or is that still all in the works?
So our CRSE PDs have already started, and we have some schools that are in a second year of that, which means that they are they have their first team that is expanding their learning to be inclusive of what that means to create culturally responsive units of study. Then we have all of our schools, which include some of our second year schools that have new layers of teams that are learning around PD to be culturally responsive educators. Now, I want to talk about something that I think is very important for everyone to know out there is that not every teacher is a curriculum writer. There are people who strategically specialize in writing curriculum. So building capacity in District 25 is through the lens of becoming a culturally responsive educator. So when I'm looking at a unit of study and I'm engaging in these activities where I'm getting to know my students well, and I'm thinking about planning, kind of like what we did with the Double Dutch math program, those are the things right now that we're expecting teachers to know. But building a culturally responsive curriculum is something that is very complex, and we can't expect our teachers to know how to do that, because not every teacher is a curriculum writer. And I think that's an important nuance to sort of separate. However, I do know that that is work that centrally the curriculum team is engaging in. And right now they're doing that work with outreach across the city to gain the supports for what can and should this curriculum look like. So I don't want anyone to think that teachers should be responsible for writing curriculum. They should be responsible for planning and participating in conversations around what a culturally responsive curricula should look like. But it really is about how are teachers right now getting to know our students well across the district, and what does that look like within their units of study and daily planning within the current curriculum that we have. Does that make sense, Lamar?
Very much. Yeah.
Okay.
Very, very much.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thanks, everyone. So now I'm going to turn it over to Gus so he can do his part. Hold on a second. All right, Gus, do you need Lewis to share for you, or do you have?
Yeah, I have them, but Lewis does such a great job.
All right.
Instead of
You
my
share for
around
Gus?
with it.
You're
Let
right.
me begin by saying a few things. One is I don't have the agenda. I usually print it out ahead of time. So folks, remind me if I haven't covered all of the agenda items you have me down for. The other thing I wanted to mention is I'm going to flip the agenda a little bit based on what you just talked about, begin with the DCEP piece. But prior to that, I want to say the following. I meet everybody in my category, my title, meets with Sharon Rencher every week. Now, Sharon Rencher is the, what is she, the liaison to the chancellor about Title I and federal and state implementation and policies. And what I've done is on several occasions, I've mentioned the good work that District 25 is doing, and she's called them best practices. Specifically, I was impressed and shared information about your alignment of the local assessments with the standardized tests that we have so far. Then I shared the fact that you're doing, you did your own 100.11 survey and use that data to update your plan, which no other district has done. Now, at the risk of being tedious and annoying people, I now have something else to share at the next meeting. This equity team structure that you have, I think, is very well done and in place, and might be another best practice. So I'm going to mention it, and I don't know how much similar work is being done citywide, but I congratulate District 25 on putting this structure into place and being so far along with it. And this relates to the next topic that I want to cover, which is the DCEP. To some degree, District 25 again initiated a change in the DCEP template. I think I mentioned it last time. We're waiting for leadership to approve the new plan, but the new DCEP will be aligned to superintendent's goals and to citywide initiatives, instructional initiatives, and particularly equity, the whole equity now piece, which I can see you're very far along with that. But there'll be goals, and there'll be new goals, and there'll be a specific equity goal in the new DCEP template. And there'll be what they're calling process goals and regular goals. Now, in terms of equity, I've been told, and your superintendent could tell me whether this has taken place or not. I was told that they're holding the template because the superintendents are going to receive some special training on equity goals in an upcoming meeting. Has that taken place already, Danielle?
Yes, mine's tomorrow, which is why I told.
Okay, so
yeah.
That relates directly to the template, and I expect that they're going to release it soon, and it'll be, that structure is going to be part of it. Now, DLT, you're going to get a sense of the structure when I use the PowerPoint that Louis is so kindly going to be projecting for me, because it has the same categories, because the same categories are using for the citywide instructional plan. Now, a couple of things are not going to change in terms of the DCEP. There'll be an overview section, and I've been, again, like a broken record, now going back to a couple of years. The overview section is the go-to section that the public goes to, usually, about information, basic information about every district. Now, what do I mean by that? They want to know the number of L's, the number of Title I schools, yada, yada. I keep asking for updated data from Central on all of my districts, and it has not been forthcoming. I'm told that this academic year we will finally get it, but what I'm doing always is relying on the good knowledge that my district teams have. So we will be updating that section using a combination of whatever we get from Central, along with the information that you have locally, because that section needs to be updated. That information hasn't appeared publicly in quite some time, and it's really necessary because the plan will be posted. You already anticipated my comments on MTSS. MTSS is an important new component of the DCEP, as it is for the CEPs. The STH students in temporary housing pieces back. There's also a section on Title I that is being brought back both at the school level and of course, a very important piece in the whole new template structure of the DCEP is the root cause analysis and the data and the information on how we're framing our goals. So that's on the DCEP and what's coming up with that. I'm sorry that I don't have the new template to share. I assume there will be some flexibility shown, although I have no official information on that in terms of the timeline. Because obviously, since they're changing the timeline on us, that's going to change. Hopefully, we'll have enough time to get this all together. Now, the task is you have goals already, and those goals will translate well into the new template, I expect. And I'll work with the district team in getting that done. But there are additional goals, there are additional pieces that we didn't have before. So we'll have to add those. One thing that will not change on the DCEP is there will be similar goals, and like, for example, an equity goal and similar structure for the high school piece. But the high school piece will continue to be a separate section of the DCEP. There was some discussion about, as in the past, some of you who have been around a long time will remember that the high school stuff was collapsed into the district pieces that I argued, I believe successfully, to keep the structure the same. So the high school component, and I know that the high school folks that are on the call now know they've already done preliminary goals and a preliminary structure, so their material will also translate well into the new DCEP, and that's coming. And of course, we'll update our 100.11 plan when we get a survey. I'm told we're going to get one this academic year. Did we do? We did the bylaws last time, didn't we? Somebody remind me. We have to make sure our bylaws have been updated, and we always, you're very good about the parent engagement policy, making sure that that's updated and then distributed citywide. So those are the sort of the standard components of the DCEP going forward, and we'll begin working hopefully next meeting, next month. I mean, I can't imagine we wouldn't be working on it beginning of the November meeting, although if I get it before our November meeting date, I'll start sharing it with the district team and we'll begin working on it. So that is my piece on the DCEP. You've already done some data analysis for the root cause sections, and I know that we'll continue doing that and framing the goals and taking a look at whatever we have to tweak in terms of the new structure. Any questions on DCEP, folks? I guess not. Okay, so let me move on to the DCIP. And Louis, if you can get my PowerPoint up, I'll go through it. It's not a long PowerPoint. Just those of you who are veterans will remember.
Hey, Gus, the PowerPoint has been up this entire time you've been speaking. Can you see it?
Oh, yes, thank you. Okay. What I see is the agenda. Yes, that's yep. Our PowerPoint. Thank you. The DCIP, just to remind those of you who might be new, I know the veterans are familiar with it. We usually do two things early on in the academic year with the DLT. We do the consolidated plan, which is largely fiscal. We usually do that first, but this year, for reasons unknown to me, we're doing the DCIP first, and then we do the DCIP. This year, there's no separate signature page, which is why I said earlier that it's important we have a agenda and a signature page for the meeting. The state has told us that they will accept our minutes, our agenda, and our signature page our attendance sheet for this particular meeting in lieu of the actual sign-in sheet that they've asked us to have in the past. So there's no DCIP separate signature page this year. The DCIP is the district-wide, and the word district is it means the city of New York. It's the citywide improvement plan. And some of you may recall, in the past, I used to coordinate doing this for the city, so I'm fairly familiar with it. What the process is, and it begins over the summertime, if not before, that late fall into the summer, is every department at the DOE is contacted by the improvement team, the federal and state, policy team, and asked for information on school improvement. So the L department tells us how they're, going to improve L's. The special ed department tells us. Every single department has a component for that. So it's a citywide improvement plan. And what it is it's the explanation that the city gives New York State Ed on how schools are going to be improved citywide, all the various components. So it also targets specific districts and specific schools that are in need of improvement. Now, the accountability identifications for this year are frozen. I think I've said that before in the past. It doesn't make Flushing High School happy because they're on the list, and they probably would have been off of it if it wasn't for the pandemic, because they've continued to improve, particularly in terms of their subgroup. But everything's frozen in place. The data for this year, for last year, is not being used for any accountability purposes. Although we have not gotten anything specifically in writing, my sense from discussions in the meetings that I've been to is they're going to use the data from this year, this year's assessments. In other words, 21, 22 standardized tests as a baseline. And then usually it takes 2 years to get on, ladies and gentlemen, 2 years to get off. So going forward, they will probably not make any identifications or any changes this year. In fact, they told us no changes this year, but they may do it the next, or they may do it the year after. So the schools and the districts addressed in the DCIP are the ones that are currently in place. Now, you know that District 25 is a district in need of improvement, and that status is only for one reason, that one of your high schools is an improvement status. It only takes one school to have a district be an improvement status. There are only 2 districts in the city of New York that are in good standing, and I'm hoping that going forward we will have a number of districts, including District 25, get off of the improvement list, because all of your schools will be in good standing. That's my hope, and that's my expectation for the future. But right now, that's the situation. So it targets districts, and it has improvement plans, the current conditions, and identifies how they plan to support learning in identified schools. Louis, next slide. It's not a very long presentation, folks. So the academic priorities, and these are priorities you're going to be seeing over and over again, and you've seen them already in your previous presentation, focusing on early childhood literacy, ensuring a culturally relevant and sustaining curriculum in every school. That's the equity piece. Developing our students as digital citizens. That's a lot of districts have computers for all, for example, that relates to that. Investing in special education, providing greater support for multilingual learners, and their families, ensuring our students are college and career ready. And the college and career ready piece, most people think of it as a high school piece, but as you know, it really relates to elementary and especially middle school, and the connection between um, uh, um, uh, looking forward, particularly middle school into high school, and the alignment in between. So let's move on. For each one of these, there are bullets, as you can see, that the DOE has in a plan. Now, there's a long document that is the actual plan. It's now in draft form. I did not share that document with the DLT. What you have, ladies and gentlemen, from me is you have this PowerPoint and you have a one-pager. And Luz can show the one-pager if you want to make sure. What the one-pager does is it takes the stuff that's in the PowerPoint and it makes it easier to read. It's in a grid like this, and it has also the page numbers in the actual DCIP, that citywide document, where if you went to that citywide document, you would find the stuff that's being discussed, these bullets, in more detail. Now, why am I not sharing that document with the DLT? And this is true throughout the city. It's still a draft. What the city has done is they have submitted it to state ed. From my experience, because as I told you, I used to coordinate this, state ed will review it and send it back with a whole bunch of comments. What kind of comments? Well, they'll say, we want more information about A. Oh, you say you're doing this for L's. Can you provide, details? Or this isn't clear to us, or whatever. So it gets revised at least once, and usually revised a couple of times. Now, this process that I'm going through today is a consultation process with citywide. It's taking place with constituencies. So you, as representatives of your community, your school communities, and the community at large, are being consulted about the plan. If you want to actually look at the plan, the superintendent can request it from me. I will email the actual document to your superintendent, and then the district has to make arrangements for you to come in and look at it. It'll be a PDF, and it either gets printed out or you could look at it, on their computer. It cannot be duplicated or emailed anywhere because of that process that I just described, that it's still in draft form and is going to change. So that's the structure that's in place in terms of this improvement plan. So you see the developing our students as digital citizens, and there are bullets there. Move on, Louis. I'm not going to go through all of these because in the interest of time. Investing in special education, they're adding 800 preschool special education seats by the fall of 2022. So if you look at that bullet, it'll describe, how they're doing that. Support for multilingual learners, providing flexibility on administering the NISTL exam. It would describe that in that section of the document. Move on, Luz. Ensuring our students are college and career ready. 48 new remote AP college prep courses are described there. College Now Restoration has served 22,000 students. High schools with dual enrollment. College credit courses across 18 CUNY campuses. So that would be described in the document. Ensuring a culturally relevant and sustaining curriculum in every school. Providing schools with dedicated funding to purchase texts in home languages and build home language libraries to support multilingual learners. That whole structure that you just described would be in a general way, mentioned in the document as well, in terms of culturally relevant curriculum in every school, and maybe even that book that the superintendent just mentioned is mentioned in the document as well. Central probably provided you with those books, or did you buy them on your own, Danielle? Or do you not know? If Central provided them, they're probably
No, we bought them through MBK.
MBK. Okay, yeah. Well, MBK is a citywide initiative, so it could be that that sequence, but certainly MBK will be mentioned and discussed in the DCIP, as it is in your DCEP as well. Let's move on, Louis. Steps in developing district goals and action plans. DLT should engage in the following steps to make sure that the action plans align to the Chancellor's 21-22 academic priorities. We're reviewing multiple sources. We're determining priorities and goals. All of this good stuff that's familiar to all, root causes, and that I just mentioned in terms of the structure of the DCEP that's coming at us. Let's move on. These are process slides. Conducting a comprehensive needs assessment to inform development of district goals and action plans. These are here for districts that are not as on target and as ahead in the process of developing goals and priorities, etc. That you've already done. You've already got identifying SMART goals to identify areas of focus, reaching consensus across about represent the highest priorities, district performance, etc. You, as I mentioned, are a model district in many areas in terms of this. So you largely have what every bullet here mentions already in place. Let's move on. I think there are only 2 slides left, if I remember correctly. Process for assessing district needs. Again, the district team has already done this, and you've already begun the process of discussing it. And like I said, I learned something from the previous presentation, that you're also going to have equity data based on these teams that you already have in place. So you're going to have also data related to equity, in addition to all of the other areas as well, to process and put into your plan as well. Is there one more, Louis? Next steps: continue to gather qualitative and quantitative data, review the previous year's action plan and activities, make sure that you're addressing the Chancellor's academic priorities and instructional principles. There's a bit more detail in the new template because I was on the team that worked on it, so I know that it's fairly detailed, and I'm sure they're developing a PowerPoint for our next month's DLT. So I'll be presenting that structure to you, and if I get anything ahead of time, I'll share it with the district team. Am I correct, Louis? Is that the last one?
Yep, that's it.
That's it. Okay. If you could throw up the one pager, just so people can see what it was that I was talking about.
So I don't have that.
Oh, okay. Am I able to share? I did send it. Let's see. That
The last email I have from you was asking you to replace a slide of the deck.
Okay, I had one prior to that, which was earlier. Let me see if I can do this. Did you see my screen?
Yes. Your calendar is very busy.
Let's see if I can find it. Overview, I think this is it. Yeah. Okay. So you see, folks, what you also should have, and if you don't have it, the superintendent's team will send it to you, is you have what I just went over in this box here. and it has this, and then it has the page numbers. So if you have a desire to actually look at the document, this early literacy piece is described on 1 and 16. And the other pieces are 17 to 31. Let me see if I can get this thing to go down. 32 to 41 is digital citizens. 42 to 61, special education. 62 to 74 describes the multilingual learners piece. 75 to 85 is the college and career ready piece. And it's actually a much shorter document than it used to be. It used to be over 100 pages, about 150 thereabouts. What they've done is they put in a lot of stuff that is shared electronically. Now, since I'm able to share my my screen, I guess I can close this, Louis, and go to another one. I want to turn just quickly to the CEP. Now, where we are with the CEP is you have given feedback to all the schools. The principals are currently taking that feedback into account, revising their document. And can everybody see the chart? Yes, no?
Yeah, we see it, Gus.
Okay. October 29 is the deadline where the revisions go in on all these parts, and districts like schools like in the past, principal hits the submit button and for superintendent's review. Signature pages are due in November. Okay, so you don't have to worry about the whole signature piece, whether you're using DocuSign, etc. Please let the schools know that. As I've told you always repeatedly, 24/7, I am always available to help with I-plan issues and to make sure that SLT members are provisioned, because the provisioning that the principals could do in the past, it still doesn't work. So I'm confident that all of our schools will get in their plans by the 29th, because District 25 is usually either number 1, number 2, or number 3 in the entire city of New York in meeting all of these deadlines. And then everybody will get certified and get final approved by the superintendents, it says here, by December 10th. Again, I'm confident that all of my superintendents, including District 25, will get this done by September 10th, and the plans will be ready for public posting. The template for the schools is not changing. So it is the template that we have now. It will change going forward. For example, I'm fairly confident they'll add a separate equity goal. So the DCP template that we're getting now will have some of the parts, I expect, going forward that schools will be doing next academic year. But don't take that as official policy, folks. It's just Gus's guess based on what I'm seeing so far in terms of the discussions taking place. Everything else will get, announced, and there'll be training, et cetera, et cetera. And in terms of SLT support, I know that I think the superintendent put that on the agenda, so we will talk about that shortly. Let me see if I can now get your screen back. Do you have your screen back now, or are you still looking at mine? Stop sharing. Okay. So I've stopped sharing. So hopefully everything is back. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen, on anything I said so far? I know I said a lot, but it's the nature of it. And what I try to do is, instead of just showing you the PowerPoint, I try to give you more detail and contextualize it and hopefully simplify it for you. So, I mean, I just don't want to give you information. I want you to understand the purpose of it and what we can do with it. So I'm ready for any questions or comments. Are you all still with me?
Yeah.
I'm always afraid of the technology. Okay, if there are no questions or comments, did I cover everything that you had me down for the agenda? Danielle, Lewis, and Mike?
You did. You did.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so before we go on to the next piece, I'm just going to send everyone back to the chat. If you have not already signed into the meeting, please make sure you do so, as we do need it for the state. For us, it's okay to just know, because these are public meetings and our meetings are presented on our website, so we'll be able to know who's here. But I think the state officially does need a sign-in sheet every month, so please make sure that you do that if possible. Okay, so next is high school presentation. So Bill?
Lewis, can you present the PowerPoint?
So I will upload it for you and you will be able to switch the slides. So you can go ahead and choose the take control button on the top. And you can
Oh, nice.
Yep.
All right, so for the high schools, for the last 2 weeks, the superintendent's team has been conducting health and safety walkthroughs through all of our schools. And really the goal here was to see what challenges schools were having, whether it was a budgetary piece or whether it was a staff piece or, health concerns and safety. So that's something that the entire team worked on to complete. I'm going to go to the MSK later because there's another piece about that. So the superintendent and the deputy superintendent have been conducting one-on-one meetings with principals to prepare them and to share information before the PPOs. This is a way for them to kind of gauge the community, see how the school leaders are navigating these challenging times. And also the conversations are, data focused and including what are the action plans from the principals. And we're really targeting the SWD and the MLL supports with instructional support and recovery services, which you'll see later. Again, they're focusing on equity and excellence are highlighted throughout the process, as well as measures for the school leaders to take to support the community with SEL and robust support networks. So Mayor de Blasio pushed out the academic recovery planning for schools, and 6 of those tenets to focus on include early literacy, developing students as digital citizens, preparing students to be college and career ready, investing in special education services, building a rigorous and inclusive universal curriculum, and investing in social emotional supports for every student. In addition, each focus area includes dedicated supports for multilingual learners and immigrant students to address their unique needs and support their academic progress and language acquisition. So again, right, the 2 special populations that we're working with and really trying to focus on are the special needs students and the MLLs. So for special education, the recovery planning is there's a recovery system to plan for the after school and or Saturday special education classes. I know that the principals are currently in the process of identifying the staff that can support and provide additional help for this group of students. Once plans are complete, case managers will begin contacting families to develop an individualized program for those students and encourage them to come back into the schools and partake in these additional services. As another layer of support for schools, Superintendent Lindsay's team, including myself, will be working with critical friends groups, and this is really geared towards the professional learning for assistant principals. And so we have the following areas that will have a critical friends group, and that's going to be English, social studies, math, and science. And the real goal here is for the assistant principals to develop their problem of practice and to act as supports for one another. So the goal is to create these groups of APs that if they have questions along the way, they're able to assist and ask each other questions. And this goes beyond the districts. This is really for all of the high school APs. So as I said before, getting back to the MSK and the MBK, on October 15th, Superintendent Lindsay's team will be hosting an MSK MBK convening for principals as well as advisors to kick off the school year. The superintendent's vision for MBK and MSK will be to share along with a preview
No,
of
I
this
didn't hand in anything. I don't want it.
of the
Oh,
student
sorry.
voice. That's okay. Of the student voice empowerment activities for the students and advisors. And then to round out today's report for the high school, John Bound's agricultural program has been highlighted in the CSA newspaper for their work with the nursing and restoration of a tree that was rescued from the 9/11 impact site. The students in the agricultural program used their skill set to nurse the tree back to health while keeping the memory of 9/11 alive. So that's really something special. Are there any questions for the high school report? All right, thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to go through. Oh, here he is. Here's Joe. Francis, do you have any President's Council K-8 report?
No, the next meeting is this Thursday.
Okay. Shirley, how about High School President's Council?
Yeah, very brief. I sent the notes from the last citywide high school subcommittee, and Queens was highlighted with their resolution for to suspend or do not remove the geographic priorities for high school admissions, at least for Queens, to keep those in place. And it also showed the presentation of the data of showing how much we're lacking high school seats in the borough of Queens, and also highlighted that the Chancellor's Parent Advisory Council is also going to do a resolution in support. They're going to vote on a resolution to support Queens on the overcrowding, overcapacity, and to suspend the geographic priorities for the emissions in Queens. And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Shirley. Joe DiBenedetto, do you have any report for CEC?
I'm sorry, I got thrown out before.
That's okay.
No, other than, join us at our next meeting, the first week, the first Wednesday in November. We are going to discuss special education, special needs, and as always, CEC is supportive of school space and expansion. And our last meeting, we had a nice introduction to the community and the new CEC regarding the need for school space in our district. So I ask the representatives of the community to please join us in supporting that.
Okay. Thank you. Do any other of our constituents have reports? UFT, CSA, DC 37. Well, DC 37 I'm going to introduce. So UFT, CSA first.
No.
Sorry. CSA doesn't have anything right now.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So I would like to take this opportunity to introduce or reintroduce, depending upon where you've been, Marcia Bryson. She is our new
Old, yes.
representative for DLT. So before I introduce Marcia and give her a moment to speak with all of us, I do want to publicly thank Andre Bullock. It has really been a pleasure to work with him across the years. He really has been collaborative in, really building bridges between the people that he supports and aligning that to the needs of the district and our district goals. And especially through the pandemic, he was a support for everyone in DC 37, but also for me as a superintendent. So I just want to give him a big thank you. And to welcome somebody that I worked with when I was first superintendent, right, Marcia? Is that when we
Yes.
first worked together?
Yeah. Yes.
And you are very similar to Andre, just in terms of the supports that you gave for the district. So I'm so glad to see you again, and I want to welcome you back to District 25 and to our DLT. So I just want to give you some time to speak to all of us.
Well, good morning, everyone. And I'm glad to hear that about Andre, because I mentored him. And so I can see he learned very well. It's good to be back, although, I have now 3 districts. When I was with you first, I had 2. So now I have another Brooklyn district. So there are times, as usual, I won't be able to be at every meeting, and sad as that will be, because I'm also the trainer now for the reps. So it's a little bit more put on me now. But again, it's good to be back into the family. I feel like the prodigal, but son or daughter. But
you were away for a little while.
So thank you for welcoming me back. I appreciate it. Thanks. And I will do what I do best. And we always work together as a team. So that hasn't changed with me. I believe strongly in teamwork.
Yes, and thank you for that, Marcia.
You're welcome.
And I will, we will say we cannot thank your constituencies enough for the work that they've done, from parent coordinators to school lunch to school aides, school lunch workers to school aides. I mean, you've just been tremendous. And I will say publicly, we would not have been able to open our schools without your team. So thank you so much for all of the work that they have done. And please voice my thanks to them as well when you do meet with them. And I look forward to seeing you live and in person. It's been a very long time.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. Is there any new business that we would like to have out there? I just have one area, but is there anyone else that has new business?
Danielle, I just want to add a few things if I can.
Yep.
One is my presentation of the DCIP. I neglected to mention that DLT members should look at those descriptions and the bullets and see how they relate to our DCEP. So the concept is that some of these citywide initiatives are initiatives that we might already be doing or can adopt in our district action plan as well. The other thing is I wanted to remind the district team that very soon what's going to happen, I expect, is they're going to ask us for PAC information, Parent Advisory Council presidents, and whether they're in place and the like. They're revising A655, so I expect that on the official regs, they will add the PAC president as a core member, but that's still in process. I know that it's being discussed, and it's likely to happen. About DC 37, I don't know. I made the recommendation, as I have many times in the past, and we'll see whether they put that in the revised regs when they come out as well. But the PAC stuff, I'm warning all of my districts. I'm giving you notice that my expectation is that they will send out those surveys again. So if we don't have them in place, elections need to be held. Whatever we need to do, we need to make sure that when they ask us for that information, we've already got it. The other thing that I sent out to the district team is I sent out a PowerPoint that Central sent to me. It's called for hybrid meetings. What it is a PowerPoint, that CECs, SLTs, districts can hold meetings virtually and in person. And if you hold them in person, you're supposed to make sure that you have access and the ability for people to participate in those meetings. So what Central did was they developed a PowerPoint on how to do that from a technology point of view. Now, Gus is not going to walk you through technology PowerPoint, but if any school in the district or the DLT wants training on that, or you want to incorporate it, I'll get a hold of my buddy Matt Zvillig, who some of you know, Mr. Technology, and I will ask him to join me and make sure that that takes place. That's both at the school level and at the district level or any level that you need. But I gave you that resource just so you have.
Thank you, Gus. I know, and thank you for offering us Matt, but we also have Lewis.
Oh, you have Lewis. That's right.
Yes,
Yes.
Lewis is
Right.
fabulous.
So Lewis can read it and walk you through it.
Yeah. So now one of the things that I've been speaking to Esther about, and Brooke, are you still on, Brooke?
I'm still on, yeah.
Yeah. So Brooke and Esther are going to be working this month around reorganizing DPAC. So I see Shirley has asked the question around when the DPAC meetings are happening. So we will have the list of all of those meetings. If we get them early before the next DLT meeting, we'll send them out to the DLT. If not, we'll definitely have them by the next DLT meeting. So although we had an election, we do have our DPAC rep who hasn't been to any of our meetings in the past year, and Brooke is the alternate, and she has been participating in all of our meetings. So Gus, Brooke and Esther are going to reach out to you because we need to decide what that canon should look like. So they'll be doing that work through you guys, and then checking in with the schools to run the DPAC meetings. So that's, I just wanted to make everyone aware of that. Okay, the next thing that I do want to talk about, and Gus, you did bring up a good point. So I want to make sure that we all have consensus around how we're currently running our DLT meetings, right? So are we okay having our DLT meetings to continue to be virtual until that changes? I know that there's other organizations that are deciding different things, but I just want to make sure, we are all at work. It's not, in different spaces, but I just want to, or different from, I know that the CEC has been, has made their own choices in July, just around they want to be a public facing council and say that since the kids are back, they want to be back. That was their last discussion. It's a little different for the DLT because we are all, in different spaces, and some of us are at work, some of us are at our offices. So I just want to make sure that we are all in consensus to continue to run our DLT meetings virtually. If not, we can create a hybrid option if there's people that do want to report to Linden. So I want to kind of put that out there. If there's anyone who does not agree with that, now is the opportunity to speak. Otherwise, I'm going to assume blanket consensus. So if there's anyone that has any questions, because we can make that public, because that is allowed, Gus, and then we will just continue to provide information for the public through our website. So anybody can publicly, I see Shirley, you put you gave me a thumbs up. So that's a great way. So
yeah, Danielle, I just want to say I like the virtual because I can see everyone's face, when those that are speaking. But like in the last CEC meeting, it was very hard to hear people, and you didn't know who was talking. You had to kind of really look into the, and you couldn't even pin the actual to kind of get as close as you can get. So it was very difficult in the last meeting to understand who was talking. People were behind the camera. So I just wanted to say virtual, you can kind of see everyone's face up front, and that's nice to see. So I'm going to go for virtual.
All right. So DLT, is there anyone who is not in consensus with us continuing to run our meetings until January? Because that's when that's when they're going to revisit it, correct? So we're good with that? Okay. The next thing that I want to bring up for discussion, and this is the last before we adjourn, is that we know that historically we have done SLT trainings around running SLTs, and the guidelines for our teams. I think that we've done a really good job in really communicating and getting to know our SLTs, but I also think that FACE has really done a good job at putting together webinars for our SLTs to watch. So here's what I want to throw out at our team just to see what you guys feel about it, and we can open it up for discussion. I still would like our SLTs to hear from the DLT and the district around our district goals and areas that we're focused on and tools that they can use that are district specific for SLTs to engage in discussion. So this year, instead of doing a district training on SLTs, I was thinking that maybe the DLT could do somewhat of a DLT meet and greet, like here's who we are. And then we wanted to just go over our DCEP goals and and our data, our district-wide data, and some of the resources that are available to DLTs that everyone can tap into when they're engaged together and talking about DLT goals. Their CEP goals. It could be virtual. Dr. D'Antona and I would really plan the presentation around, what our initiatives are and what that looks like and how that ties into our goals and our DCEP. And then you guys could just do like a short little, like, hi, I'm Shirley, I'm high school, like whatever you would want to do. But if you guys are okay with that, we could put something together within the next month where and I could send out a couple of dates. I would just have to kind of plan it with Lewis and Mike to see like what it could look like and how many people we could get out there. It doesn't have to be a Q&A kind of thing. It could be a webinar where we're all talking and they're just gaining that information. So if I just wanted to hear some feedback from you guys around that. And then they could actually meet and see who their DLT, resource, their partner schools are. So just get information about who we are and what we do. So anybody have any feedback on that? All right, Shirley loves it. Thank you.
I'm in favor of it. Just question, when does the training actually happen? Usually don't they have a set training date? Is that something that would happen before January?
The set training date that we used to do was the 2-hour mandated training. But what I found, what I'm seeing is that we don't have to do something that FACE already does. Like FACE talks about balance and compliance and what needs to be. I was thinking about doing something more of like, here's District 25 DLT, like here's who we are, here's what our our goals are, here's some suggestions and resources that we have for you to talk about at your SLT meetings that are really aligned to the needs of the district, right? Let's look at this data. This way it's not just coming from the principal. Like we've said this, there's nothing wrong with the principal coming with a list of, or even myself, which is what I do with you. I come with a list of proposed goals, right? And we align the data. We do a data study, around what the needs of the district are, and we create our CEP. And I think for the most part, a lot of SLTs are okay with having that culture, but we also want to show them what we're doing as a district, some of our key points. And this way, now you have an entire SLT who sees what they need to look at, right? So that just gives them a different lens, and it's really district specific, more of an overall training.
Absolutely in favor.
Yeah,
That's
I
why
agree with that too.
that's why I love it, because if FACE is going to do their own training and mandate that we all have to do it, this is something, and we get the SLTs engaged and see how a functional school leadership team should be, that everybody's participating, and this is the goal, is to get that CEP done in regards to everything else. That's why I love it completely.
Perfect. So that's great. So what Mike and Lewis and I will put together, like what's possible and how we could set it up. And then I'll throw out some dates to our DLT to see who's available. Okay. And maybe we could run it in the morning, just do like a quick, just make it an hour, just really quick, kind of, let's do here we are and here's what we're doing. All right. Okay, everyone. So if there's nothing else, can I get consensus to adjourn the meeting? Is there anyone who disagrees with adjourning the meeting? We're all good. Okay. Our next meeting, let me just pop into my calendar real quickly, is November 8th. And I am looking forward to seeing you guys then. All right. Otherwise, have a great month, and we'll talk soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a
Thanks.
good day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.